Your dreams are bigger, bolder, and more badass than the life you're living now, but something just keeps getting in the way. Join certified coach and former therapist Diane Wingert for the Driven Woman podcast. She'll show you how to get rid of whatever is holding you back so you can stop spinning your wheels and up-level your life. Get ready to hop in and buckle up. This is the Driven Woman podcast, and we're heading for the fast lane.
Well, hey there, Driven Woman, and I have got something very special for you. You know, every once in a while, you get to meet someone who has totally found their calling. And today's guest, Kathi Burns, who is a certified professional organizer, is just one of those people. She has been helping others eliminate their clutter for over 17 years, has written an entire book on the subject, hosts a weekly podcast called Organized and Energized, and is even more enthusiastic about eliminating clutter to create more freedom than she was when she got started. Well, once I learned that not only was Kathi a certified professional organizer with tons of training, but she used to be a travel writer who literally lived out of a suitcase. And not only that, she lived for some time on a boat. So I knew not only was she a bona fide expert in doing more with less, but that I absolutely had to bring her on this podcast as a guest. Our conversation was both informative and really fun because while I know quite a bit about productivity myself, I learned so much from Kathi about the benefits of tackling our problems with paper. You see, addressing our paper piles is like a gateway drug to creating more order in our environment and more freedom in our lives. Dealing with our paper piles frees up both space and energy, reduces distractions, and increases clarity. I mean, how's that? We all have better things to do than spend an average of 3 hours a week searching for things, right? Well, that was just one of the eye-opening facts that Kathi shared in our conversation. 3 hours a week, and that's just the average, which means some people spend way more, maybe even you. But guess what? If you implement Kathi's Get It Gone system, her promise is that you will be able to find whatever you need in 30 seconds. From 3 hours to 30 seconds, sign me up. So listen, if you're ready to listen and learn from this self-proclaimed paper wrangler and really want to go from piling to filing, well, hey, let's just jump right in, shall we? Kathi, I almost thought this wasn't going to happen today because the tech gods are not smiling upon us. But here we are. I'm calling this for a win. Welcome to the Driven Woman podcast.
Thank you very much. We made it. After much technical difficulties, we are here.
Well, you know what? I think sometimes the whole key to success is just refusing to give up. And I am a very stubborn person. So that's what we are here to talk about. And what we are also here to talk about today, because you are a professional organizer and your specialty is helping people get their you-know-what together by eliminating the paper pileup in their life, because it's all about the paper piles. At least that's where it starts. Am I right?
Absolutely. That is where everything starts to be a bottleneck.
Yep. Now, I know the last time we talked, I confessed that my problem is not so much physical paper as it is digital paper, you know, all the files that have been piling up. And so I know we're going to talk about that for a minute, but can we start with just a brief little introduction to how you became a professional organizer? Because I've known a couple of your clan, and there's always an interesting origin story. Would you mind sharing yours?
Sure, I'll be as quick as possible. So basically, I've been an entrepreneur, a serial entrepreneur all of my life. And we had a publishing agency in Florida, and we were doing really well in the tourism industry. And when 9/11 hit, basically it shut us down overnight. So we lost tens of thousands of dollars of contracts because no one could fly, no one could do tourism, no one could do anything right at that point. And we held on for a year, but I always knew during that time we were making money, but but I kept saying, I wonder what I should be when I grow up. I wonder what's my purpose? What should I be doing? And that was a very good reason for after our business closed, my husband said, well, you can have a year off to kind of redefine yourself and figure out what you should be doing, because I always knew I wasn't. So we moved to California, and I spent a year just doing research and prayer and testing and all that to figure out, what does Kathi like to do? What does she love to do? I met a girlfriend, and she was also had the exact same year off, which was ironic. I've never had a year off in my life ever. And I got to know her, and I went into her house and I said, girl, you've got so much stuff. You're not going to be able to heal if you have all this stuff around you. I had been a travel writer and licensed boat captain. I'd lived small for years. So I knew the efficiency of living small and how less stuff helps you have more clarity. So I started organizing her, and she goes, you know what? You should be a professional organizer. And I'm like, what the heck is that? She goes, oh, yeah, you should interview my girlfriend who's used a pro organizer for years and see what she has to say about it. So I had this 45-minute conversation with this lovely woman, and basically everything that she had said, I could do standing on my head asleep. It was like kind of a natural thing. And I'm like, oh, cool. So I became a professional organizer 10 months into my year off. Why I didn't use that last 2 months, I don't know. I was all excited. Went on to become board certified, training extensively in it. And here I am 17 years later, loving what I do. And it's really about helping my clients remove the blocks to set them free to do what they want to do, which is my heartstrings. I always knew I didn't know what I wanted to do. And once I had the time and space of the year off, boom, there it is. And I see that happen over and over with my clients. It's about creating space for clarity, which leads you into purpose, which leads you into fulfillment for your life purpose, right?
We're not so different. We both help people remove obstacles to having what they want more of. We just go about it in different ways. And what those piles or pileups look like is different in my world versus yours. There were a couple of clues, though, I think, Kathi, about where you were going to end up. And obviously, if you've been doing this for almost 2 decades and have 2 books and a podcast, you clearly found what you were meant to do. But I'm also thinking the fact that you were able to recover within a year from having your business need to be closed up. Not everybody's that resilient. 2, you were able to relocate from the East Coast to the West Coast, and not everybody is able to do that and bounce back. And 3, because you were a boat captain, you already understood the value as well as the necessity of living small. So it's almost like, that famous Apple quote about, or it's either an Apple quote or a Steve Jobs quote about, you can't really see the dots connect until further down the road. And then you look back and there they are. I 100% agree with you that you can't get clarity when there's stuff in the way, whether that's physical stuff, emotional stuff, traumatic stuff, but you are particularly attracted to helping people organize things and find clarity that way. So how do people start down this path? Do they just get to the point where they've got so much stuff it's falling on their head and it's a risk? The neighbors are calling the fire marshal. Their kids are refusing to visit. Like, how do most people find their way into your world? And where do you begin to help them?
Well, everybody's different. And the people who have things are filing on their head, that's a different modality than what I work with. That would be in the hoarding spectrum. Okay. And that's dangerous. And that does require city. It requires psychologists, sociologists, city codes people, professional organizers, the whole team. My people come to me because they just can't get done what they want to get done. My market specifically are professional entrepreneurs, women entrepreneurs who just feel stuck and they don't understand why they're not creating the freedom that they started their business for, why they're unable to get things done. They're smart, they're savvy, but they've got a few little roadblocks that they can't identify necessarily. I always tell everybody that letting go is a muscle. Learning how to work, first off, to get organized, you have to let go. To let go, most of our letting go muscles are atrophied. We're not used to it. So we have all this stuff and we don't even know where to begin. We can't let go. We're like this, my clients are like this. And I'm like, once they learn how to let go, then their muscles are emboldened and they're like, get it out of here. Because they realize that the vacuum of space that's the ticket. Once they have that open space, they have then clarity, right? Clearing clutter for clarity. So I always say start wherever you can, even if it's just your pencil drawer. Let's start there because that's something that's very easy that doesn't necessarily have a lot of emotional tie to it. So you can start exercising that letting go muscle. Then through letting go, after you've gone through that process, then you can begin to organize and create the systems for success. So, there's three main saboteurs that I feel that entrepreneurs have that I see every day. And it's like multiple to-do lists, it's duplicated or broken systems, and it's also not being able to file. They have piles. So they're piling, they're not filing. So those are the three things that I see that really hamper. So if you're sitting there listening to this and you're thinking, why can't I just get things done? Why am I not as successful? It's probably one of those three reasons that's hitting you, And so when I work with clients, I quickly identify which of those blocks is the big one that's holding them back, and we begin clearing there.
So you can, what I'm hearing you say, Kathi, is that you can start big or you can start small. You can start anywhere kind of in the food chain it is. I'm curious about this because what I understand about how you work so far is that you won't have the clarity to be able to organize what you have if you simply have too much. Are there people that say, well, I don't necessarily want to get rid of anything. I don't necessarily think I have too much. I just need help organizing what I have. Is that ever an option where you get involved and see they don't actually have too much. They just don't have any order with what they have?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I always say, you don't have to get rid of anything you don't want to get rid of. Absolutely. There's no you have to get rid of this. That's what a lot of people are afraid that pro organizers are going to do that to them. Now, I will say, let's set it aside. I don't feel this is appropriate in your life right now. Let's set it in a box and set it aside and label it that, so that it's always there for safekeeping. You'll never lose it. But let's clear away the stuff that is not in your life right now. What happens is that we all change and grow, right? And I listen to my clients when they say, well, I used that all the time. Okay, so used, right?
Yeah, you're picking up on that past tense.
Yeah. So, okay, let's keep it, but it's not active in your life right now. So it doesn't need to be active in your space right now. Because the only thing that should be active in your workspace right now are things that are in action, things that you need to do your job and to move forward. So we'll move those things off to the side, put them in a box, label them so that they're not lost. But let's get down to business and have the stuff in your environment to support you with where you are right now, not where you're going to be tomorrow, not where you were yesterday. What do you need right now?
Is it hard for people to make those determinations, even when they're working with a professional?
Yes. And that's why I have a job, because I can, seriously.
No, I get it. Because if it were enough for them to just be told what to do, right? Or read it in your blog or read it in your book or hear it on your podcast, if it were enough to just be told what to do, then everyone would be organized and on top of their stuff. But we know that that's not the case. Outside of emotions and habits, what else gets in their way?
Oh, emotions and habits are the biggies.
I know that covers a lot of territory.
Thanks, Diane. That was a trick question.
Well, I just wondered if you had additional insights about that would escape me, because obviously, and I'm being a little tongue in cheek, Obviously, all behavior is habit forming. All thoughts are habit forming, and emotional reactions to things are also habit forming. And then our brain latches onto those things and creates the shortcuts. So it makes it that much harder for us to intentionally change. But do you ever see people create the clarity and the organization and then go back to their old ways?
Things are never perfect. The system that they create is never perfect from the onset. So there could be one little snafu where they're like, I don't even think of the file that way, so I'm not going to put it there. So there are tweaks and improvements as we go throughout the process. And, but it does take 6 to 8 weeks to sustain a habit and to create a habit. So if they get on the train and they get organized and they don't follow up with the system for at least 2 months, it will fall by the wayside. It will go into decay, and they'll go back to their wily ways, I always say. So
their wily ways.
Their wily ways. Yeah, they have to really put the intention forward that, yes, I'm going to change my life. Yes, this is going to be a habit that sticks. It's all about habits that stick. It is going to take 6 to 8 weeks of practicing and working with it before it's going to stick. I mean, that's just what it is. And some of my clients are like, well, I didn't realize it would take so long. It's like, well, this has been 40 years in the making.
Right.
This is 40 years possibly of paper that you haven't let go of. I'm finding college journals here, college notes, so it's not going to be an instant quickie thing, but absolutely, we can clear away everything that's not appropriate right now in your life. Keep only those things that you need right now in your life at front and center so that you can actually move forward and have the success. And, a paper pile will take, the average entrepreneur wastes 3 hours a week looking for documents. So if we can at least get rid of all the crap that doesn't have to do with anything now, they're going to save themselves 3 hours a week.
Actually,
so there's a reward system.
that Kathi, that is compelling, right? Because you and I know that behavioral change is hard. Mindset change is hard, but very practical. Like, you spend on average, that means some spend a whole lot more, right? 3 hours a week looking for stuff. What might you do with those 3 found hours? That's way the heck more satisfying than scrambling around searching for stuff and cursing under your breath when you can't find it. I can think of any number of things.
Well, and it takes time to save time. You have to invest time creating the systems, which is why I created the Get It Gone formula. You create the system, you spend the time doing it. There is an investment of your time so that you can save that time later forever and ever and ever. Like every month, every week, you would save 3 hours. I figured out it's like a month, a year that you'll gain in productivity. Wouldn't you rather be on vacation, or wouldn't you rather be selling things, or wouldn't you be able to just have time with your family and take that month back?
It totally makes sense. I'm thinking about how I end up. I'm in the second category mainly. I do not have multiple to-do lists, although some of my clients have. I'm not so much a paper piler, but I'm absolutely guilty of broken or duplicate systems. And you're probably going to crack up, but here's how it works for me. And many of my clients are the same way. I will hear about a new tool, a new technique, a new planner, a new digital organizing system, a new project manager, whatever it may be. And I immediately fall madly in love with it. One of my clients and I refer to this as the magic pill. You're always in search of the magic pill. So I think, ooh, this is going to be the thing. And of course, I imbue it with all kinds of hope and expectation and fulfillment. And then I start to use it imperfectly, inconsistently, and not to the full potential of the tool. And then within 2 weeks is my typical 2 weeks, I start to think, oh man, this isn't the thing. I thought this was going to be the thing, but maybe I get a little benefit. So I hold on to that. And then I go in search of the next tool, system, planner, organizer. And then I add that. So I'm using one thing for a little bit of this and another thing for a little bit of that. And meanwhile, all of these things have subscription fees, and you get attached to them because you think you're getting some benefit, when what would really be optimal, and I'm sure you won't fight me on this, take them all down to nothing and rebuild with one tool that does everything you need, and you actually learn how to use it instead of just skimming the surface. Am I right about that?
You're totally right about that. And, as entrepreneurs, a lot of us are ADD and it's like squirrel. Well, yeah, I like that better. That's better. But again, without spending that 6 to 8 weeks figuring out if that new squirrel works for you, the squirrel's not going to work for you. The squirrels. So I attribute it like entrepreneurs. We're like squirrels. We place nuts all over the place. And then we don't remember where they were or what they were doing. And then we have systems that are fighting with each other. They're combating each other. And then we're really confused and we really throw it. And I do it too. I mean, that's what we do. We throw a wrench in our productivity by chasing the squirrels. So yeah, there isn't now one thing that I will say about that, Diane, is that, there's generally not a one system that does everything. Yeah. But you can narrow it down and you can definitely go from, 5 contact databases to 1 for sure. So it's really about what works for each client. What I love about my job is the creativity. I can really set up a system for each client. And I don't think any of my clients have the same exact system because it's about how they think and how they act and how they're going to remember things on what's the best way for them to put together a system. But yeah, I mean, sometimes scrapping all of it and just bailing out and then starting from scratch is good if you have the right direction and if you have someone who's listened to exactly what you need, why you need it, when you need it, and how you're going to use it, how you're going to use it yourself. So yeah.
Okay, I'm dying to know, are you naturally organized or did you have to learn how to be organized?
I had to learn how to be organized, and I am an artistic creative. I am ADD as well. But my father was Mr. Organized. He had systems within systems. He Dewey Decimal his books. So I learned it vicariously. I hated it. I thought he was crazy. I thought he was a nutcake. I hated it all the way through, but I learned from him just because I grew up with it. And he, even to his dying day, he was creating another system that was a better system on top of the system he had built. So he's all about systems and creativity. So I really got that from him. For me, the charge is about creativity, creating the system custom for my client. So no, I wasn't, because I lived on a boat, because I was a captain and I moved boats, because I was a travel writer and I lived on the road 40 weeks a year. I learned how to live small, and I learned how important it is to only have what you need where you are. So through life experiences, I've created this thing. And I like what you said earlier about how we become, how we find our calling is, I think for those of you out there who are listening, if you're still wondering, what should I do when I grow up, which took me 40 years, right? Think about all the things that you do that you love, and they will create that career for you. So everything I've used in the past has brought me to this place. And I think that that's where we really find our dharma, is when we can do what we do effortlessly and with joy.
Okay. You just used the word dharma. Are you Buddhist?
I'm Buddhist leaning. Yes.
Okay. I love all these new terms. Yeah. I've been a practitioner for going on 20 years. And for people who aren't familiar, Dharma is just the teachings of the Buddha. And there's also a secular version of it. It's basically your philosophy for living and what works for you. So this is my Dharma, and like you, learning later in life how to be consistent and how to let go and how to not always follow my impulses to, just because something looks appealing, it's because it's new and it's novel and it's shiny and it's not sullied by experience yet, but it will be soon. And I can just as easily figure out a creative way to re-engage with what I'm already doing, because that is how you win over time. I want to share something with you before we get into specifically in the system. One of the best pieces of advice I ever got, which at the time I hated so hard, was all you need as a highly energetic, creative, driven entrepreneur, all you need in order to be successful is to learn to tolerate monotony. Hey, it's Diane with a quick interruption to the episode because I've got a couple questions I just need to ask you. One, Are you where you want to be in your business? Are you making the money you want to make, working the hours you want to work, seeing the clients that you want to see, and getting the income and impact that you went into business to get? And if the answer is no, what's holding you back? Why is there a gap between where you are and where you want to be? Do you know the answer? In my experience working with female solopreneurs, so many of them don't even really know what's standing in their way, and that is so frustrating. So I created a little quiz called What's Holding You Back? There's a link to it in the show notes. If this is you, please take the quiz. And if you do, DM me on Instagram at Coach Diane Wingert and let me know your results. Now, on the other hand, if you already know what's holding you back, if you already know what the obstacles are that are getting in your way from achieving the income and impact that you deserve and desire, then I don't want you to take the quiz. Forget about the quiz. Go directly to the other link in the show notes and book a consult with me. I may be the very coach, and this may be the year that you put all of that behind you and really have the business that you went into business to have. For everybody else, keep on listening. And if you find value in what you hear, don't forget to leave me a rating and review on Apple or wherever you're listening. Here we go, back to the show.
It's funny because at first I said I would never own my own practice. And now I own my own practice. And I would say, I'm never going to take it any more than just treating patients. And now I'm thinking about how can I start my own
institute.
Yeah, exactly. Even like training other therapists, having a certification with my name that I am, I haven't thought of the name yet, but I'm certified in this technique or whatever the case may be. And really just helping other therapists help their patients the way I help mine.
And I said, what the hell? You're not doing a good job of selling me here. Like, that's the worst thing ever. But actually, what he meant was when you can tolerate what an ADD person thinks of as monotonous, which is consistent action over time, that is how you create success. And it's basically a system. And if you're a creative, energetic person who likes the shiny objects, the creative challenge is, how do I make this fresh, new, exciting, and engaging for myself, even though I've been doing it for 17 years? And that is exactly what you've done. Now, I can see your book behind you, but I cannot read the title clearly. Can you bring it close? Now, this is a podcast, so we will not be able to have pictovision here, but it is How to Master Your Muck. Well, that's provocative. And is that you in the picture? How did you manage to sit on top of that pile of papers without it falling over?
That's the magic of paper piles.
No, your graphic designer edited that in.
You're well organized, Diane. You're very organized.
Yeah, it looks like Tetris. I wouldn't dare try to pull any of those out. No, not Tetris, Jenga. I wouldn't try to pull out the Jenga block. But
and
you really,
stilettos.
Yeah, I see that. But you really you have a love for this, don't you?
Oh, I love it. I love it. And people say, you're so weird. Why do you like paper? Because paper is one of my certifications. And it's not that I love paper. I like getting it gone. I like getting all the crap out of there and eliminating the papers. And so I get great joy out of seeing all this stuff disappear from my clients' environment so that they can actually focus.
Yeah, I love that. So Get It Gone is the name of your new and improved system. And yes. I know we're going to be talking in a minute because you've got a whole program around this. You've got a webinar coming up, I think tomorrow. Yeah.
Yeah.
The day after this is announced, and we'll make sure that we circle back to that in a couple minutes and also link to it in the show notes. But Get It Gone. And we're specifically talking about paper piles.
Yes.
So how long do you work with people, and how do they get it gone in that amount of time?
Okay, so I've been doing this for almost 17 years with my clients one-on-one. And I realized that there's not enough of me, and that I can actually put together a group training so that everybody can get it gone together and make it more fun and make it more joyous and less drudge. And let's just support each other and get it done. So basically we're going to get it done with the Get It Gone formula. So it's a 6-week program. We spend an hour every Wednesday from 10 to 11 Pacific time. And I start out talking about the fundamentals of what can a piece of paper be. What's interesting, any document you hand me in the world is going to be one of 5 categories. So once you kind of understand where your documents, what categories you have, then you understand better how to organize them. So we start out by the basics of, let's get the papers that you need right now organized front and center and vertical, your papers in action. So we start with that. And then we go into, hey, let's make sure that you have all your documents ready for taxes. Let's make sure that you have a tax filing system so that you're not spending hours and hours every year dreading going to tax and or filing an extension. You know, before I was a paper flow specialist, we would file extensions when I had my publishing agency. So we just didn't have our act together, right? And that's common. Then we go into this.
This is so timely because today is tax filing day. The day that we are recording this is tax filing day, and we will be releasing it just in time for your webinar. But yet taxes are painful. And so that's one of the categories, right? Everything related to taxes.
Yes. One of the weeks. So we're just going to be spending each week focusing on the papers that you need and helping you get them put into a system. You actually get a label kit. You actually get a copy of the book. Chapter 1 in my book is all about the filing system. So you get the book, you get the label system, and then every week we go through and we are organizing and eliminating the papers. And some people say, 6 weeks, oh my God. But think about it. You're going to give me 6 hours. You're going to spend maybe 6 more hours. You're going to get a month every year back because the system is built forever. Once you have the system, it's built for life. In other words, like for policies, insurance, we don't say State Farm. We say insurance auto. So that throughout the years, if you change your provider, you don't have to change the tab. So your labels are set up, it's color coded, it's alphabetical, it's like joyous to open up your file drawer. You actually know where everything is. And the idea behind having a good paper flow system and paper filing system, you can find anything you need in 30 seconds. And that's something that I guarantee if the system's put together, when we go through this training, you'll be able to find anything. I'll ask you at the end, we say, okay, who can find their car title or whatever, and we'll see how quickly people can find things. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be joyous. It's not going to be a drudge. It's just going to be a blast. We're going to have celebration times in each session, and it'll be a fun thing. Basically, it'll be amazing at the end. And why is it 6 weeks?
Because that's how long it takes to make and sustain a habit, which we know from our very smart friends who study neuroscience.
Yeah. Yep. So there's a 6-week training, and then we'll have refresher courses from time to time for anybody who wants to pop in and ask more questions, or maybe this way. I remember one time I made there was a travel miles program, like where do you put all your frequent flyer stuff? It was called Travel Miles. And I always looked, I could never find it under T. So eventually I changed it back to say frequent flyer, because that's how I think of it. And boom, now I can find that quickly in my file system. So there's always a little bit of tweaking, but basically the infrastructure, it's alphabetical, it's color coded, it's joyous when you open it up. It's actually organized and beautiful. And what happens is you end up getting rid of about 80% of the papers that you own, because you end up knowing that you don't need them. Once you know what any document in the world could be, it'll either fall in that category or it won't. And again, you don't have to get rid of anything. You can throw them all in a box, but I guarantee all those papers that are thrown in a box will eventually just leave life, because you'll realize I didn't need them anyhow.
I'm just, as you're going through the system, and I'm just all of a sudden picturing all the situations and individuals that this would be great for. Someone going through a divorce, someone who's a recent widow or widower and wasn't the person in the couple that handles the paper, someone who's relocating, especially if they're downsizing, somebody who's decided to hop on the tiny home trend or the container home trend or the living in the van trend or whatever they want to be, like anyone. And also people who are first-time entrepreneurs and working from home for the first time, which we've seen such an increase of in the last few years because of COVID. So many people lost their jobs and then decided after they got over the shock of being outside the workplace, they don't really want to go back. They want to have their own business. They want to work from home. But we're so used to the systems of the workplace dictating where things went that they now have to figure it out for themselves. I love, love, love this value promise of find anything in 30 seconds. I used to think the best value promise was Domino's pizza in 30 minutes or it's free. And I'm like, actually, this is way, way better.
Yeah, why waste your precious time trying to find things that you know that you have that you can't find? It happens over and I mean, the average is 3 hours a week that we lose. Now, I and that's for corporate. I seriously think for home-based businesses, we lose more time. And you're right, for people that are reemerging into their own workspace and they're creating their own company, which is yay, women. We have 60% women are leaving and starting their own jobs. Because you've had a corporate environment, you haven't necessarily paid attention to why things are the way they are. Why does your corporate desk have a file drawer? Whoa. And then as women, we get these pretty desks with no file drawers. Well, that doesn't work. But what I was going to say about that is if you have this system, you don't have to have QuickBooks to start your business. You will have all your tax papers ready to go and all your receipts saved appropriately into the right appropriate IRS tax categories so that when you do your taxes the first year after you've started your business, you don't have to have QuickBooks because QuickBooks is difficult to implement, right? So you might as well just start making money, start filing your receipts how you need at the end of the year, add up your receipts in each category and be done with it. So that's one thing that is a really good advantage. Now, if you have QuickBooks, there's a little separate file system that you use for taxes, but you don't have to have QuickBooks. So I love that part about Frida, about the file system.
Well, it just sounds like there's so much freedom and ease. And I predict, even though I love one-on-one work and I love how you can creatively customize it to the specific needs of that client. But with something like this, I just know for a fact that people who are disorganized, people who procrastinate, people who are distracted, oftentimes have a lot of shame. And nothing busts shame faster than being part of a group of people who are dealing with the very same challenge. So I think that is going to really be powerful because they will help cheer and support one another. And then they get the benefit of everything you have to teach and model, but they will keep each other accountable to doing it. And I think that's such a huge benefit of the group work. So if anyone's listening to this on the day that it is released and is like, wow, maybe it doesn't have to be such a struggle. I think I need to attend this webinar. What will they learn on the webinar and why should they show up to it instead of just looking up your website and going right there?
Well, on the webinar, you're going to get a lot more idea about where you should start, what your pain points possibly are, how much time you're losing and how much time you can save by doing specific things. So I'm going to go deep into, your to-do list. What's going on with your to-do list? Is it do you have 15 Post-it notes in a book and an agenda? So we're going to talk about kind of simplifying your life down. And then if you're interested in actually creating the system itself, then you'll be invited to go to the Get It Gone Formula webinar. And you'll be invited to go into the Get It Gone class. But the webinar, there's no strings attached, but it's going to really help you get more of an idea of where you are and where you could start getting your life organized and where the best place is for you. And if you're looking around and you're resonating with, I finally want to deal with the paper stuff, then you can join the class. And if you don't, you're still going to have some tips that you can walk away with to make your life easier as an entrepreneur.
Absolutely. And I highly recommend your podcast as well, because you do a really good job both in your solo shows and with your guests of showing people that this is really kind of a universal problem. And in addition to the time you're wasting looking for stuff, you're also wasting time feeling crappy about it. Let's just go right to the solutions. I love that you talk about making it joyful. I could completely picture the color coding and like, that actually sounds really appealing. And that the idea that, wow, I could literally find whatever I'm looking for in seconds instead of who knows if you ever find it or not. My husband and I are getting ready to move for the second time in just 3 years, long distance moves. And he just got rid of his textbooks from med school, which are like, they're so old. I mean, I don't know if you'd call them vintage, but I'm sure they don't have any value to anyone, least of all us. And we're not going to have the space where we're going. So it's like, whew, I don't know if he's felt the relief yet, but I can tell you that I have.
Well, he will, paper and having a publishing agency and a printing plant in Florida, paper weighs more than anything. So in the pound per inch or whatever. So I'm telling you.
Really? We're not just talking psychologically. We're actually talking about
weight.
Actual weight on the scale.
Weight.
Wow.
Yeah, weight on the scale. So by him think of one of those books. Think of one of those medical books that he just got rid of. That was probably a pound or 2 pounds. Seriously. Or more, seeing it's a medical textbook. So think of all the weight, literally the weight of poundage that you're shedding from your life. And, any pile that's laying around, it's psychological weight because it's sitting there yelling at you from afar, especially as women, where there's a pile of this yelling at you going, don't you have to do something? What do you have to do? Don't you have to do something with me? It's like screaming at you unconsciously going, I better get to that pile. And we're trying to focus on the project that we're writing, or we're writing something and then the pile's over there, like little silently yelling at us. And then we feel I don't know. It just goes on and on. So basically you want to go vertical and not pile. You want to file, not pile, and have less distractions. And by getting rid of papers, you get rid of a lot of poundage, psychologically and physically.
I did not realize that until just now. Thank you for helping me realize this. I have tried to nag this man to lose weight for 25 years. He finally is. And I realize the connection to finally being willing to let go of those old textbooks because he's already started losing weight. So I'm sure this is no surprise to you, Kathi, but I'm just literally connecting the dots going ding, 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 ding. Is that being able to let go in one area helps you let go in other areas, even if they don't seem to be remotely connected.
Oh, they're so connected. You won't believe how intricately they're connected. My friend and colleague, Peter Walsh, wrote the book. Does this clutter make my butt look fat? And he definitely, it's a book. It's a great book.
Great title.
And it literally, there is a definite connection between weight and clutter. And by your husband being able to release his old dusty books now, he's going to release weight faster. It's just, you're more the medical doctor than I, but I don't, he did a lot of studies around it. So you'll have to read the book to check it out. But it's truly true, a correlation. I see that happen all the time with my clients as well, who are trying to drop weight. I say, hey, let's just drop this stuff. Let's just get this gone. And they're able somehow to lose the weight faster. And there's less encumbrances and there's less beating yourself up as well. And you feel more masterful and you feel more powerful. Therefore, you have more go-gettedness to actually get to your goals, whether it's weight or whether it's time or whether it's fun with friends or whatever.
That is freaking brilliant. And I totally, totally agree with you that the skill of learning how to let things go that are no longer serving you in your current life that's transformational. It affects you across the board. And let's face it, as we get older, which every single person listening and every person on the planet, even if they're 12, is getting older day by day, letting go is probably one of the most important life skills you can learn because we're always needing to do that one way or another.
Well, change happens. Change happens every single day. And the only time you don't change is when you're dead. So if you can learn how to let go and move into change, life's much more breezy and much more fun than doing the resistant, I can't let go, I can't let go, I can't let go. It's going to be the same. It's going to be the same. No, if you learn how to let go, you learn how to actually fully move into and embrace any moment that happens to you. And then there's more joy, there's more freedom, there's more success, there's more going with the flow, right? Because change happens unless you're dead. So do you go with the change?
Let me just validate, you are definitely Buddhist leaning. Like everything that you just said, it's non-attachment to things, to ideas, to identities, to practices, to lifestyles, to this body, to this lifestyle, this lifetime. Just being able to enjoy it and not be weighed down by it. So much freedom and joy that comes from that. This is literally the best conversation I have had all day, and super exciting to think about the people listening who might be like, you know what? I'm inspired. It's time. I'm going to sign up for that freaking webinar, and I'm going to learn how to get it gone for good and experience this in the company of other people who are making the same commitment. I love that so much. I will make sure that we get all of the links so people can sign up for that directly from the show notes. And before you go, do you want to share the name of your podcast and which social media platform you would like people to follow you on?
Sure. Well, the podcast is called Organized and Energized, the podcast. So you can find it on any way that you want to consume it. It's there. It's on my YouTube channel. It's on Spotify. It's on everything. So just look for Organized and Energized, the podcast. The webinar is organizedandenergized.com/webinar. So for those of you listening, just go to organizedandenergized.com/webinar and you can sign up for the free webinar. But yeah, it's just Organized and Energized, the podcast, because it's all about organized energy. If you're organized, you have energy, and energy is what it's all about. If you want to tackle any mountain, you want to create anything, you need the energy to do it. And energy is something that you learn how to groom and build, right? You create your own energy. And I do it through the art of organization. So that's why it's organizedandenergized.com or Organized and Energized, the podcast.
I love it. I can't wait to share you with the audience and to helping people master those piles once and for good. File, don't pile. So many great mic drop moments. And I look forward to continuing our conversation in the future.
Thank you, Diane. I really appreciate it. And I look forward to seeing all of you on the webinar tomorrow.
Yay.
Yay.
Okay. That's a wrap.
You've been listening to the Driven Woman podcast with Diane Wingert. Want more straight talk and strategy each week that will take you from spinning to winning? Don't forget to hit subscribe in your podcast player so you won't miss a single episode. Then head on over to the Driven Woman free and private Facebook group community. See you there.